by banning away a lot of supports and the Lucian as well.
Now we're going to see the Wukong first pick immediately locked in. Of course, again, 12-7, the change where he could leap over walls to get some buffs to his Q cooldown, as well as the damage to monsters, but in general, really enabling him to play much stronger in the jungle and take away some of those early laning phases weaknesses that he had struggled with in the past, outside of course, against very heavy AD composition. So see where it goes. Expecting it to go into the jungle walls. On the opposite side, look, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And Aphelios, well, he might be broken, but he's not broke. He didn't get nerfed, so use him. He's strong, offers an engage option, offers a strong laning phase, overall very powerful champion. And curious to see now how Red are going to respond. AP jungle is the hover.
Is what I'm thinking for Titãn. They might not pick it now. They may want to just grab themselves an early support. Things like Norless have been very prevalent. And I wouldn't be surprised to see that one. We've been seeing a lot of this Gwen Wukong combo. Obviously, we talked about how the buffs to Gwen. Oh. Okay, so I'll finish my point and then come back to that. But the buffs to Gwen obviously made her that much more viable again in Pro. I'm surprised as to how viable she has suddenly become. The fact that teams are saying, well, you know what? Now that she's back on the playing field, there are very few answers that teams have for her. I always like to think of champions like Tryndamere that can be used as a means to try and shut her down. But PSG right now are saying, we're going for the safe scaling approach. By going for the Gnar, they will have a little bit more frontline, a little bit of safety, and overall a very solid foundation for a good teamfight comp later on into the game. But that Jhin, second time we've seen it now. I'm not a massive fan. Nope. Maybe this Umbral Glaive tech will be continued, and it's something that we're just not familiar with yet.
Yes.
But while Jhin can be a very powerful laner, I'm a little surprised because Titãn has played MF this split, and MF I think has actually been shown to be a really good answer into things like Aphelios as well. Gives you a lot of team fight power, and I think it would have synergized very well with the Wukong that they drafted for themselves. So I'm a little surprised that they chose to go for a different direction, but this also to me suggests that they're looking for a Nautilus support. So let's see if PSG look to remove that from the pool.
For now, it is the LeBlanc, but I think one thing that is different from our previous game is that while LeBlanc and Jhin were really the sole sources of reliable damage on their team, the composition so far for Red Canids does have a Wukong, does have a Gwen. So Jhin can play a utility role more comfortably, has champions that setup can be used for, has a lot of upfront damage from those champions that he can look to finish off with his ultimate. So it does feel a little bit stronger for Jhin as a champion, but we'll see what it looks like once we have the supports locked in as well. For now, Yuumi, a lot of the range supports being taken away. Feels like PSG want a fist fight in the bot lane, I'm not going to lie, limiting all of these safe kind of stand-back supports for these champions that can get lane control early on. Might just see Engage versus Engage as the Vex and LeBlanc both taken off the board.
Well, the analyst has highlighted it, right? Red typically play from behind, you know, and by eliminating a lot of these scaling supports, they're preventing this late-game team fight damage threat that Red typically like to play towards. Now, I did want to note, with the Vex ban coming through from PSG, heavily indicated to me that an Ahri was going to come through for PSG in mid. That ban, in response, is great for Red, but now they can look for something like a Rise. Instead, they're going to choose to lock in the Nautilus themselves, deny that as an option. Of course, Aphelios Nautilus, very tried and true, very staple, very stock standard bot lane. I would have thought that they would consider a Thresh, but still a very viable option here for them. And now they have what is a very traditional front-to-back teamfight comp, right? With the with the Aphelios acting as your primary damage, you have frontline in the form of Gnar and Nautilus. You have pretty solid engage. You just need to round things out with typically a control mage mid, but let's see what they choose to go for.
And I think the thing here is that if the Zoe does get locked in, we have excellent poke champions with the Jhin and the Zoe paired as a combo. You have great engage with Gwen and Wukong potentially going in together. I'm concerned for Unified, because a lot of the times in the past you would see the Thresh pairing, and that would give Aphelios so much safety. See something like a Braum mitigate a lot of this long-range poke damage. Nautilus, yes, he goes in very well, does not peel nearly as well. So Unified definitely going to need to play this one cleanly, but again, expected to pull ahead in the early game, PSG, as Red are often the team falling behind, and Red often falling behind, but snowballing their AD carry. They're going to have to show us something different than they did in a lot of those games in the finals. It's not just about running Jinx around the map and grabbing plates anymore. You're going to need to distribute that gold a little bit differently with a champion like Jhin on your team, as Leona's going to be locked in. No surprises there. Zoe, and now the final pick for PSG to see what they're going to put into the mid lane.
Orianna is my prediction.
I think it's good. It's good protection. It's good zone control. Stops your Aphelios from getting one shot a lot of the time.
Come on, give me one. Give me one. And that's going to be locked in, right?
Boom. Ooh, Betty, genius. World-class analyst. Pop, pop, pop. Got him.
I mean, it's also just, I think it makes the most sense in the context of what they drafted, right?
Yep.
We already talked about a very traditional stock standard, front to back, good scaling. The best thing to complement something like this is a control mage that offers utility. Their only other option would have been Victor, but I think that in this matchup in particular, Orianna just fares better into the Zoe than the Victor does. So not really a surprise. PSG got a lot of their comfort picks. When you look across the board, these are champions that they've played a lot throughout the split, and they're pretty happy. They're looking for the scaling front-to-back team fight. Red, they have a few more options, but their comp is a little more disjointed, right? They have relatively good siege in the form of Zoe and Jhin acting as a powerful poke, but then you've also got this Gwen who's like a pretty good team fighter, but also pretty good at split pushing. You then have this Wukong engage, followed up by a Leona, and a Jhin and a Zoe that are like fine in team fights, but they're kind of better at poking. So like, sure, they have some win conditions, they have some options available to them, but a lot of their champions kind of want to do slightly different things, and they don't all work towards the same goal that PSG's well-rounded comp does.
And I think it's interesting because it's a huge opportunity for Red Cannons to show us more, because again, you heard it from the desk, they fall behind early, they come back playing on 2 lanes, playing for team fights. This time, they have a composition where if they get ahead in the early game with a Zoe, with a Jhin, if they break that mid lane tier 1 tower early, they can take over the game completely. But it will not be with full-on 5v5 team fights. It will not be falling back to a scaling Jinx with an Ornn or a Gragas or some defensive pick like that. This is a very, very different look for the Canids. They're going to need to show us another side of themselves, a side we did not really see in their finals. They want to come ahead here against PSG.
And I want to remind people a couple of the stakes as well, simply because as the analyst desk was talking about, this PSG is not the same PSG from last year's MSI.
Yeah, absolutely.
But PSG did make it to the semifinals.
30 seconds until minions spawn.
They lost 3-1 to RNG in those semis, and I think that with the changes to their mid jungle, the expectations are that while they should still be good, they're going to be weaker than what they were. And I think this is a big proving opportunity for them, right? To showcase that they are still an international contender. They can still make it out of this group, and I think they want to showcase a dominant performance here to cement themselves as a solid contender in this group. Whereas Red, they want to create that upset, because based on RNG's game 1, they're very clearly favorites in this group.
Absolutely.
And it is the PSG spots that you're looking to contest and you're trying to take away from them.
Absolutely. And I think the important thing to remember here for the side of PSG is that PSG are no strangers to changes or being underestimated.
True.
How many times did they not get to field their starting 5? How many times did Doggo come in and substitute? How many times did something mess up their otherwise well-laid plans and domestic success? So if any team can adapt, have to give PSG that credit. That said, Maple River, very strong addition to the team. Bay, Juhan, definitely need a little bit more time, it feels like, to be able to work together. Some language barriers, some inconsistencies. That said, unified Kaiwing Hanabi, strong 3-man core if I have ever seen one. Maybe they can get something done. Good hook to interrupt the engage there. Titãn fishing for the 4th shot, but will not find it. However, lane control, very much in the favor of Red for now.
Okay, Kaiwing, I see you. That was very well played. Interrupting the Zenith there. Titãn and JoJo looking to get a little bit of control in the early 2v2. And it's immediately interrupted. So PSG already taking that slightly safer, more reserved approach. Just looking to farm for the time being.
Level 2's coming at the same time on the top side. Difficult. Hanabi obviously wanting to keep Gwen at an arm's length. Oversteps one time, she leaps on top of you, she gets a good trade. Good news is she doesn't have any CC, so yeah, you can just do that. You're not too punished if you overstep one time, but once Gwen starts to win a lane, she usually continues to win it. We'll see what happens once there are a few more items under the belt, and of course, important to note the discrepancy in summoners. Ghost versus the Flash here. Can be difficult if the Gwen finds any kind of advantage whatsoever. But across the map, pretty quiet early game, all things considered. Fighting for pressure sort of as expected, and instead now turning our eyes towards the jungler, seeing where the Viego goes early, seeing if AEGIS wants to go for maybe some early ganks in Wukong or just farm up to the level 6.
Keep my eyes on the jungler as you highlighted. Juhan starting up towards the top side of the map, path back towards bot, hovering around that side of the map right now. Both junglers should meet. The important thing to note is that Juhan does not have priority in the bot lane 2 versus 2, which means that Titãn and JoJo can collapse first. The junglers will spot each other out. Here we go.
Aegis stepping in, going for a little bit of these early trades. Remember, Wukong gets a lot of armor from his passive,
The
as
smite's
well
gonna
as
heal a
health
lot.
regen. Looks like he has just taken control over the crowd.
Okay.
Juhan playing to the bottom side when he did not have Cryo there. Of course, Grefthar does give up a bit of lane pressure. Is going to take a bit of a bad trade here just so he can move down and support his Bay. Trying to clear what he can.
Ooh, good sidestep there. Necessary, as aEGIS was making his way towards the mid lane wave. Grefthar, though, falling short in these trades, and this comes back to what I was talking about in draft. The isolated 1v1 Orianna can be such an oppressive bully, even at early levels. And Zoe, with a relatively long cooldown to early levels, just kind of gets poked out. So, matchup going very well for Bay so far. Farm pretty even across the board. Slight deficit up towards the top side of the map, kind of as we expect. Gwen, just doing Gwen things, really. Important to note that that bot wave should be slow pushing in favor of Unified and Kaiwing, so they can back to base, pick up some long swords, and actually catch this next wave. So overall, a slow laning phase. It's somewhat what I expected, Dracos, like when we looked at the drafts. But as a result of this, I am a little concerned as we get later on into the game with this composition from Red CANIDS. We already talked a lot about how the composition kind of wants to do different things.
Yeah.
Titãn and Grefthar really good at finding picks, really good at poke, really good at sieging towers in particular, whereas the Wukong and the Gwen really good at skirmishing, really valuable in team fights, does very well in a side lane, and it's kind of like that duo and then the mid AD carry duo that have like slightly different goals in mind, so how they navigate around those team fights is going to be interesting to watch.
Absolutely is. Hanabi playing safely
this wave
here.
sucks.
This is, this is misery territory, observers.
He knows.
Giving us the horror movie vision highlight. Ooh, the bounce over the head. I respect it. Looking for the third auto for an extra bit of movement speed, but it's just not going to be enough. Red CANIDS finding first blood.
Nice. Really nice play overall. They set up the wave perfectly. The Ghost is used by Guigo, but it doesn't matter. They end up getting the kill. They find themselves an early lead. And while this will give PSG control over the bot side of the map, getting Guigo into a position where he can kind of win that isolated 1v1 really sets him up for success, and it's kind of what you want to do when you have a Gwen as well.
Certainly. Leona getting the kill, obviously not super ideal, but Wukong getting an assist, not too bad overall. So Guigo continues to do on the top side as Wukong builds closer and closer to what we assume will be the Divine Sunderer, probably for both junglers at this stage. And so far, very quiet. Very often when you look at historical success before coming into a game like this, you see the success that the PCS and specifically PSG has had. It usually means early game disaster, absolute dominance from one side of matchup. But Red CANIDS is doing very well to hold their own, really leveraging a lot of the strength of their individual champions here in the early game. And again, credits to JoJo for that roam. Knows his Jhin can just sit in bot lane and be fine, moves up to the top side.
Hanabi, he's not going to be too phased by this though. He's a veteran that's been playing for a very long time now. Those that have followed the international scene should be very familiar with his name. Yeah, okay, he's fallen a little bit behind early, but it's not the end of the world. He's just going to continue to farm up. He knows he acts as that front line. You just securing another crab. The frustration ping comes down from Juhan where he's like, I hate losing crabs.
I would really like to get crabs. If we could just make sure that that happens, that'd be fantastic.
Big seafood fan.
Big seafood fan. Loves it. Dungeness, king, other types of crab. I only know 2.
I was going to say, what are you listing right now? Because my knowledge of crabs is very limited.
I know that they are expensive. That's about all I know. You can make them into cakes. That's where my knowledge extends. They're worth a lot of gold and they give you vision. That's about it.
I didn't know about the crabs that kill me in Elden Ring.
That's true. Better than the lobsters, though. We can say that for certain. Those sniper lobsters, very terrifying.
Sniper lobsters.
Speaking of terrifying, Sniper Zoe from downtown. Obviously, if PSG do fall behind, we talked about how while the way that Red maybe want to play these fights isn't perfectly synced, if Zoe gets ahead, Unified's life is going to be a nightmare. Juhan's life is going to be a nightmare. Hanabi's life is going to be a nightmare because, yes, Mega Gnar, big, tanky, beefy, frontliner. Mini Gnar.
More describing words.
More describing adjectives. Tiny, little, baby, yordle. That's, you know. So it's, could be hard. And an even game, I'm with you that I think it still favors PSG as we get later and later into the game, but Red, their life gets so easy if they can just break open mid, and the first step to making that happen is getting this Herald.
Here we go. Look at the rotation from bot, Titãn and JoJo on their way. Ooh, big damage onto Bay.
Force flash! Oh, Titãn!
Beautiful pick comes in from the river. Bay was not expecting it, even burnt the flash, but still loses his life. Red CANIDS find themselves with 2 kills, and they're continuing to amass this gold lead. This will secure themselves the Herald, and they can gain even more control over the early game.
If they also break down mid, in the near future, Zoe's life becomes so fantastic. So utterly easy. You're walking through fog of war. You're throwing out bubbles. Nobody can sit safely in their lane. It would be massive for Red if they continue to push this advantage forward. Right now, just that wave in mid. Doesn't look like they have enough pressure, but that is always the thing I keep my eye on anytime we see a Zoe in pro play.
Now, I'm going to say this again, because this is the second time we've seen the Emerald Glaive Jhin, and, you know, we're not familiar with it. We're going to do more research, especially after today's
I'll
games.
say I'm skeptical. I am absolutely willing to be wrong. I remain skeptical.
Let's have a look at this play once again. The root into the ult, flashes away. Ooh, good damage. And a good pick overall. Very well played. But yeah, it's now that we've seen it twice, it makes you think, okay, there's probably something we don't know.
Yep.
So,
I mean, it's a cost-effective item. It clears vision
100%.
very quickly.
Very powerful.
In general, it's just very strong. When it's good, it's very good.
It's one of those things where, like, as a first item, like, for the value that it gives,
Sure.
it's just it probably just gives you a very strong spike. I mean, like, one tick of his ultimate helped him secure that kill, right?
Yeah.
So, like, the damage is definitely nothing to scoff at. And it's definitely going more favorable than what we saw last game, that's for sure.
Certainly.
They are setting up a wave right now. Looks like they're not going to risk any dive. Can look to back to base, maybe spend some of that gold that they're sitting on. Yeah, and I will say, like, thinking more about it, because of the cost reduction, you do get that completed item before your opposition if the lane is even, right? Well, which means that you then set yourself up for a potential fight or play that bit earlier.
It's also, remember, as with most lethality items, hold that thought. Guigo going forward there. It's very cheap. The build path is very easy. It's a ton of long swords. Your backs are easy. Last time, Varus was super popular as a lethality AD carry. This item was very strong on him. He would buy it, mostly because it's, you know, it's 200, 300 gold cheaper, and it's just easy. Every time you back, you can buy something. There are no bad backs when you're building lethality generally, and that's certainly the case when you're building something like
Okay, yeah, I see it a little bit more. Perhaps we were just skewed in last game because, I mean, they were losing.
I'm willing to be wrong. I just like, you know, maybe I'm a bad Jhin player. I'm definitely a bad Jhin player. I like my mythics. I like my Yomus. I like to go fast. You know, playing for the team, respectable. Is it questionable? I don't know. Someone send us the map. Happy to be wrong. Titãn is caught out here. Ignite already ticking down. He's running for the hills. Unified a mile away, however.
Nola's just casually solo killing Titãn there. Not a problem. Did burn the Ignite, will force Titãn low, lost the heal as well.
Big thing here, though, for the Jhin is that he can still just ult in this fight and contribute plenty. Objective getting lower, we're going for the full-on 50-50. That's going to be the two-man, but the lead forward from Wukong is big. It stops Unified spinning the multi-man ult. Aegis going immediately into the backline. Now JoJo looking to follow up. Here comes the curtain call. Unified needs to make his way out base, stepping forward to body block. He's going to save his AD carry, but again, Red taking advantage in the exchange. Yes, PSG get the dragon, but Gremthar hungry for a little bit more. That's one sleepy Orianna. She will not get taken out.
Damn, Red CANIDS, they're just making all the right decisions in this early game. They haven't ballooned this gold lead, but 2K, 11.5 minutes. Expectations be damned, right? Of course, PSG, they have taken a very passive approach in this early game. We haven't really seen them force any plays. They did just secure that Drake, but I love the aggression that we are seeing from Red CANIDS. They recognize that they need to be making stuff happen on the map, and they're making it work. AEGIS now 2-0-1 on the Wukong. And let's have a look back at this fight. So the Shockwave comes down to do this early on. Doesn't really do that much damage. AEGIS not quite able to land the smite, but notice he's going to flash commit here and create so much damage and disruption on the backline. This means that then the follow-up damage from Gremthar and Titãn is just destructive. It forces PSG to split up, and they're able to find these isolated picks, and Red end up coming out on top.
And the thing about picks like Jhin and Zoe is if you start winning a fight, you usually keep winning the fight, because Jhin has so much execute damage, Zoe gets to reset with all these summoner spells. It's so easy to keep a fight going once you have any kind of advantage. Herald, though, dropped on the top side, looking like they're putting this gold into both the back pockets of Aegis and Guigo as well. So funneling this Wukong, 2-0-1 already the scoreline. Yes, he's a bit behind in jungle CS, but 4.6k, nothing to scoff at, and a 2-item Wukong ahead of the clock is going to be a very terrifying thing for PSG to deal with.
Oh, for sure. We haven't seen that many successful Wukong games of the day so far, but this could very well be the best early game Wukong we've seen of the day.
Divine Sunderer, boom, 11:57, very early.
What I will say is that, again, big shout out to, hang on.
JoJo, Fishin, gonna get the flash for free from Bay.
Really?
That means that, yeah.
Just respect to the setup here from Red, because often one of the big criticisms that you'll have from teams that aren't outside of the major regions are their setup. But they had the top wave pushed in, which I can't really highlight here, but they had the top wave pushed in. They sacked the bots in order to bring their bot lane up and then set up a potential dive on mid. And then by forcing them back, not only will they cross-map and trade for the top tier 1, they also secured 2 plates in mid. And their bot lane didn't really lose that much as a result of it. Look, Titãn now going to catch that wave down in bot. And Red are going to extend their gold leads to what, 2.5k now? Like, not only are they making good proactive early game moves, they're actually playing the map very well too. And again, I want to give a big shout out to Kelsey. She did a lot of prep and she shared a lot of her notes and like questions that she reached out to the coaches with. She reached out to the Red coach, and one of the things he was saying was that we feel we're a lot more well-rounded compared to our Worlds performance. We felt like that we needed to learn a lot, and they wanted to make it back to the international stage, and they wanted to be more diverse as a team in terms of what they could do. And I think we're seeing that. We're seeing that evolution, that adaptation, that growth of a team. And yeah, I was skeptical of their draft. I was worried about what they'd be able to do, but they are proving me wrong. They're playing the early game well. Now they just need to keep this momentum up, and they need to keep the pressure on PSG before they can reach that big 2-item spike and then look to try and force those team fights.
Yeah, because it is important to remember, while Red are very much in the lead, their gold is kind of spread out between the respective damage spots on their team, whereas PSG really have all of their gold in the back pocket of Unified. He was the gold leader in this game when we checked in moments ago, and while yes, he doesn't have all the backline peel maybe that an Aphelios would love to have, 3-item Aphelios is still something that has to be respected. Has the Gale Force, has the cleanse for a little bit of extra safety, and if it is a game that comes down to full-on 5v5 team fights, it's really just about whether or not he can survive the Gwen and Wukong, and if he does, they're just going to win every single fight. So it's something that has to be looked out for. For now, Red very much in control. That can all slip away from them. If they fall behind, they lose 1 or 2 fights, they lose a couple major objectives. PSG still ahead in the Dragon Race, and it's going to be an Infernal Soul.
I'm really enjoying this game. I feel like we've seen a lot of one-sided games today, but
yeah,
this feels like one of the closer ones. Of course, Red find themselves with the lead for the time being, but you know that PSG, with the comp that they have, can very quickly swing the game in their favor. Traditionally, 2 teams that are known for their late-game team fighting, and you feel like that we're building up to that point. Great game to round out day 1 of MSI with.
Absolutely. And now as Red look to break mid lane, their lives become so much easier when it comes to getting cryo, setting up vision, looking for these picks that we
Very well
about.
Played. Like, the way they use the Herald, they'll secure the mid tower, they'll have that control, have the Gwen push in bots, gives you access into the river. The thing they have to be cautious of is all of these deep teleports that are sitting behind them in the bot side jungle. They haven't cleared this area of the map out yet, and the TP is available for Hanabi, so that risk of a flank from the Gnar is very real.
It is now going in, looking to get the fight picked off. Unified to the backside, untouched for now, but there's just too much damage. You can Gale Force out to safety, but it doesn't look like it's going to be enough. Unified just picked up. There's no peel for the 80 carry. Red walking away with an easy fight. Kaiwing running for the hills. Maybe he cannot hook out to safety, but that curtain call spelling the doom of PSG in that exchange.
AEGIS just wipes Bay off the map. Like, that Wukong engage followed up by the Leona was flawless. Very well done by Red. They find themselves 7-0. Another kill, making it 8. Red are absolutely dominating this early game.
And this is a moment that starts to reset the script for this group. If you go to expectations, this group is 1 RNG, 2 PSG. Not a lot of questions therein. It's a pride battle on the bottom side versus Red in the Istanbul Wildcats. But with Red showing up like this, with a new composition, something we didn't really see them play as much domestically, you start to wonder, can they be the team? Can they be the ones to make the upset?
Engage. And a good follow-up as well. Immediately from Titãn, the root comes through. And like, yeah, we haven't seen a lot of Wukong today, and I don't have a lot of experience casting Wukong, but his damage is pretty nutty when he's able to get into the thick of things. Like, I've seen Armut's Wukong top before, but Jungle Wukong, the way in which he just comes out of the brush like that, is able to find that initial one-shot. Very well played. The follow-up from Leona was just so lethal as well. Titãn's just on point with those snipes today.
Man, the man hits his shots. Oh, there it is. Absolute confidence. Love to see it in the face of the players. 5k gold lead, big Wukong damage. And the thing about Wukong is that, like, when he snowballs, when he's ahead of the clock, he is such an incredibly oppressive champion.
Oh, yeah.
Because domestically, if you're not an LEC fan, we've seen 2 kinds of Wukong memes. All of them are from Arma. He gets camped, he falls behind, eventually he becomes relevant. Or he gets snowballed and he takes over a game completely. And for Aegis, he's taken over the game completely. This is absolutely unplayable for Hanabi. The curtain call's not even necessary. Get that man an assist.
So what I'm starting to realize is that knock-up into root is basically guaranteed CC.
Yes.
And because the range is so long,
Yeah.
there's nothing you can do about it. You just, and like, the reason why I made that comment earlier about like Wukong, normally when we saw Armut play, it was always flanked. He was always looking for flanks with the Wukong. He was never the primary engage tool. Aegis is always the one starting off these fights, and then the rest of the team follow up behind him. He has so much trust in his team that JoJo is going to be right there behind him, that the snipe is going to come through from Titãn, that I'm just really impressed with this coordination and execution that we're seeing from Red right now.
It's a fantastic performance from Red. Again, on paper, I did not expect a lot from this team, but they are truly showing up today. The way they're doing it, incredible. This is a team composition that if they had fallen drastically far behind in the early game, would have been so difficult to execute. But with this lead, they are playing it to perfection. Use the range of the Jhin and Zoe for setup or for follow-up. Let the Wukong, the Gwen, and Leona run in face first, do the damage, find the picks, and it's working out fantastically for them. And CBLOL has to be feeling good, because most tournaments do not start like this for the CBLOL.
Admittedly.
Yeah.
Brazil have been known to get those early leads, and they're not quite able to close it out.
That is true.
We need to see Red now not get over-aggressive, control the map well. And we've been impressed with their lane assignments so far and how they've been managing their waves, but can they actually secure that win? Can they get themselves ahead on day one of MSI? Right now, things are looking good. They're playing through two lanes. The analyst has talked about this, how rather than trying to play the entire map, just focus on the two lanes. And they have control, a wave pushing in top. Oh, this is good. I like this a lot from Red. They're following the steps here. They're using the wave they have in top. They don't want to overcommit. They just want to clear out the jungle, maintain control. Look for the
and Aegis going into the backside, but Hanabi has Meganar. It's not too far off. Titãn gonna go out with the blast code. Have to be careful here. Cannot get over-aggressive into the Meganar. No matter how big your lead is. Guigo pushing into the mid lane. Bot lane needs to be answered eventually. PSG weathering the storm for now.
Yes, and that was a slightly harder engage to follow up on. Good jump from Hanabi as well to disengage from the follow-up that we saw. It's again that Wukong engage into the W from the Jhin, into the then follow-up from the Leona. Very devastating, very powerful pick setup. That this time around PSG was able to avoid, and as you rightly said, buy a little bit more time. The Dragon now spawning in about 55 seconds. Resets very wisely coming in from Red. Aegis likely going to clear this camp. I wouldn't be surprised to see him base, pick up a few more control wards. He may be running out of time.
It's just a difficult spot too. Unified going for the Collector second. It's going to feel good in some instances, especially against Titãn and Grevthar, but Aegis has so much armor already between Death Stance and Plated Steelcast. Gets so much more armor from his passive. You just have to wonder if Lord Dominik's could have come out here, could have been a little bit more effective, because it really is just about, can you survive the Wukong? He will leap into your backline, and if he is not answered, he will kill your backline, and that is going to be the puzzle that PSG have to solve.
They're going to send Grevthar to catch the top wave. They have bot pushed in. He does have the teleport available. And once again, Red. They are the aggressors. They will catch the mid wave, push that one in. They lose a tiny bit of vision. Look at that ward just above Guigo. Very deep, gives them a lot of information. And this is going to be uncontested. PSG going to use this window to move towards the Baron. See if they can reclaim some vision control.
Hanabi.
Once again, very clean execution. That's why I love that international events, Daniel Dracos, because you always have expectations, right?
But they don't mean anything.
Because
they don't mean anything.
It's the same thing, right? Yeah, playoffs happen, right? You know, and then fans think, well, I say fans think, that's not entirely true. Everyone often thinks that, like, you look at playoffs and you think, that's the team I'm going to get at MSI. But multiple patches happen, a lot of time happens, scrims happen, and, like, teams evolve, change, and the expectations have to shift a lot. That's why very few people are very hard and willing to commit to an idea right at the start of a tournament, because often those expectations are often ruined. And Red is a perfect example of a team who, I mean, they sowed the shot. They showed the stats.
Yeah, the stats are bad, which is weird because normally every minor region, they're like super top heavy.
They just dominate.
They have like plus 30 CS in every lane, and they're just better. They just beat everybody better. So the fact that Red have bad early game stats. Notably bad early game stats, and are absolutely smashing PSG at this very moment, at least for now. Is
in a controlled way as well.
Very controlled, very slow, very steady, not taking too many risks. It's a huge flip on the script that we're so used to seeing in the early stages of the tournament.
And one of the big things for Brazil is trying to reclaim some of that international glory that they've had in the past, right? They want to be able to be proud of the teams and their international performance and be a region that can be a threat when it comes to international. You can create upsets and challenge the top dogs, and right now Red is looking good. Of course, still a very long group stage left to go, but to start your tournament like this, definitely a great showing for Red.
Absolutely. 2.5 item Gwen, too, only getting it harder for Hanabi to deal with. You can see an early Randuin's coming out there. Just, it looks like, I think, for the slow. Just tried to get away. Some of the base damage is going to come in from Gwen, even if it is armor. Aegis.
Again,
hovering
look
off
at
to the
this.
side.
Now they're playing through all 3 lanes because they know they have so much control. Very little vision invested towards the bot side of the map, but Guigo knows that if they come, I can just disengage. I have the Ghost, I have my immune, I'm chilling. You guys just keep the pressure up top side, and they're basically just waiting for an opportunity to do Baron. Now, Baron is the problem area.
Yeah.
Because while they do have Leona, it's not the fastest with Zoe and Jin, but they're looking for the fight.
Won't be a problem if they can win a fight. Engage to be interrupted, but there's Aegis into the backside. He's going to look for the second proc. Immediately goes invisible, goes for the second proc. It's massive damage. That's going to be one sleeping jungler. That's going to be one dead jungler is Red. Managed to find the pig. They can turn their face back towards the Baron. The pings are coming out there ready. They have found their window of opportunity. Could they have rushed it with a Jhin? Absolutely not. Can they rush it when a jungler is dead and an Orianna is low? Hell yes.
That is 10 kills to 0. No blood has been spilt on the side of the Red Canids, and they will convert that pick into a Baron. An incredibly impressive performance from the Red Canids to start off their MSI. And now with the Baron, they have everything they need to break into the base and look to secure their first win.
Betty, this is really, we're probably saying it too much now, but it's really crazy to see this. Upsets happen, yes, but usually they're upsets. They're messy, they're sloppy, but this team clean through every stage of the game, and when they have this big of a lead, they get to play fights just like this.
It's so good. JoJo this time with the engage, and Aegis with the follow-up, and then the long-range damage. Yeah, I was skeptical of the comp because I felt like that it wanted to do too many different things. But seeing it in action, I grossly underestimated it. And it may just be because PSG had a very slow game, but all in all, what Red is doing is they're engaging with either the Wukong or the Leona. And Grevtar and Titãn are untouched every single fight. There is absolutely no backline threats that they are worried about, and they can always follow up reliably. The worst case scenario for Red is if that Wukong dies immediately, and he just hasn't. They have not been able to kill him because it is always Red that finds that initial pick first, and they create the numbers advantage. So huge credit to Red. The way they're playing this comp is a joy to watch, and it only opens us up even more for future compositions at MSI.
Absolutely. Ready to see the rise of Jhin, as it has been a pretty popular pick so far of the day, but only Phoenix and Titãn picking it up for themselves. Guigo. Bit of a stun here, Aegis. Fighting the jungler, catching him out, looking to knock up Hanabi, but Hanabi's gonna get the double bans off to safety. Meanwhile, Unified, oh no! His life is just so hard. Oh no!
Titãn
Those!
with the flash and W combo is able to secure a kill. They're looking for more.
One more kill. They are not stopping, they are not throwing, they are not giving up, they are not making the mistakes of the past. They are not forgetting the sins of their fathers or forefathers. It does not matter. Today, Brazil is here to dominate. The CB Law is here to dominate. Red are here to dominate. PSG rather, are getting ripped to pieces.
Another kill will go in the favor of the Red Canids. 13-0. Oh my word.
And I thought the most one-sided game of the day might be a G2 game, might be an RNG game, might be a T1 game, but a 13-0. Today, Red are the guys wampa stomping their way across this rift. Guigo walking forward, another route onto the AD carry. Unified's life is a living hell. He's getting picked apart again, and finally the victory will come through. Titãn, full confidence, a well-earned victory from the entire Red lineup.
You always know you're going to get a passionate team from Brazil, and look how much this single win means to them. The group stage is still going to be a long and difficult road. Teams are going to evolve, they're going to improve, and they're going to find ways to shut down what it is that you're good at. But for now, the red CANIDS find themselves tied for first with RNG in this group.
And it makes the group so incredibly exciting. PSG, can they rise up? Can they find their form again? Same story with Istanbul Wildcats. We're finally going to see a group where everybody is fighting for a way out of the group.
Well, this is the thing. The Wildcats, of course, their first game was against RNG, but that was an expected outcome, right? And I think even what we saw from the Wildcats early was a good idea that they just couldn't quite execute upon. I feel like we haven't really seen the Wildcats, and it really does set up for an interesting group after this performance. This group is going to be an interesting one to track for sure.
I love it, Betty. Sometimes you forget, you get used to the status quo, you get used to the expected favorites winning out, as has often been the case in Stage 1 in plans. Even if there are a few upset games here and there, gives me hope for a thrilling group, a close, contentious fight. Make your way out and into the Rumble stage. PSG, maybe back to the drawing board a little bit. Feels like once they fell behind,